Let's go back to our loan example and see if we can write some code to help us with paying back the loan. So let's say we use our do while loop in this case. So we need to say do while, we need some condition, and we're going to repeat the process of paying our loan back, some kind of monthly payment. So the question we have to ask is, what is going to be our condition? What must be true in order to execute the body of our loop? Well, if we're going to execute the body of the loop, that means we're paying back the loan. And that means there has to be some remaining balance. We still have to owe some money. And that means that our condition should be that the balance is greater than 0. As long as we still owe money, we need to make a payment to pay off that loan. Here's some code that takes care of paying back the loan for us. So we see that we have 3 variables: balance, interest, and payment. So they're all doubles. We say that our initial balance is $15,000. Our interest is 6.5. That represents 6.5%. And then our payment, which is going to be our monthly payment, is $250. So we see that we have our do while loop here. So we say do while, and then as long as the balance is greater than 0, we're going to execute the body of the loop. Now I couldn't fit everything into one line, so I broke up the code into the 2 lines here. But what we're going to do is our balance is going to be the current balance plus the interest for that month. So we take our interest, we're going to divide it by 100, and then divide that by 12. That gives us the monthly interest. And then we subtract that amount by the monthly payment. So then after this statement is done, balance should be the remaining balance after the monthly payment and charging the interest. So we'll go back into our while loop and check, is the balance greater than 0? If so, we're going to repeat this instruction again. So we just keep doing this until our balance is paid off. Now, realistically, we may have to make a change in the last payment to make sure that we're not paying more than what we owe, but we're not going to worry about that right now. This is just a simple demonstration on how we would use the do while loop. The next repetition structure we will talk about is the do until loop. Let's look at the format of a do until loop before doing anything else. So it looks something like this, and you may notice that this looks just like a do while loop. The only difference is instead of having the word while, we have the word until. So what's the difference? Well, what we find is this actually works the exact opposite of a do while loop. So as long as the condition is false, we will repeat the statements inside of the body of the loop. Remember, a do while loop will repeat the statements as long as the condition is true. Here, we're saying if the condition is false, we will execute the statements. And then whenever the condition becomes true, then we will get out of the loop. Here is our example from earlier with the counter, where we're going to use the do until loop. So our counter is initially 1. So we can take a look here and see that we have do until counter greater than or equal to 3. So as long as this condition right here is false, we're going to display the value of the counter and then increment it by 1. So let's see what's going on here. So counter is initially 1. Instead of writing out everything at the bottom, I'm just going to make some notes at the top. A little easier on the writing. But anyway, counter is initially 1. Is counter greater than or equal to 3? No, it's false. So that means we're going to display 1 and then increment counter by 1. So now our counter is going to become 2. That's close enough. So then we go back into our condition and ask, is 2 greater than or equal to 3? Well, it's not, so that's false. So now we're going to display our counter. So we're going to display 2. And then we'll increment our counter by 1. So 2 now becomes 3. So then we check, is 3 greater than or equal to 3? This is true. So we're not going to go into the body of the loop anymore. We're going to go to the end of the loop and just resume with the rest of our program. Here is a flow chart to help illustrate the do until loop. And what you'll find here is the structure is pretty much the exact same as before. It's still a repetition structure where we're repeating statements. The only difference is that we change where the yes and no's are. So no is now here and yes is over here. So when we move our counter down, so if we're starting up top and then we move down here, We're going to ask, is counter greater than or equal to 3? If no, then we're going to do this whole set of instructions here and go back to our condition. So we find that we're going to repeat this 2 times. So we're going to run this when counter is 1, and then we increment it by 1, and then we run this when counter is 2. And then when we increment it to 3, we find that 3 is greater than or equal to 3, so we would exit the loop. So this is going to run 2 times.